Logging. It's something that comes by default in Python. Simply import logging and you're good. But what about for Node? Everyone on YouTube seems to be relying on libraries and some over-engineered solution. Let's create a zero-dependency library for simple logging in Node. So, to get started, open a folder. I'm using VS Code for this, and we're going to create our first file, which is going to contain all of our logging code, so logging.js. At the top, I'm going to create a list of goals that we're going to accomplish today, and then we'll mark them as done as we go. So first thing we need is get the line of code we are logging on. Next one is print the date. Then we're going to print the log level. So info, warn, or error. How about warning? Spell it out. We'll print our messages. And then we'll incorporate colors. And that's optional. Obviously, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Logging library will work all the same. So step one is we're going to get the line of code that we're logging on. So to do this, I'm going to create a function called getLineOfCode. Get line of code. Doesn't need any parameters. And in order to figure out what line of code you're running on, you can use the built-in error object in JavaScript. So if you do const error equal new error, let's just console log the stack for now to show you how it works. So console log error.stack. Now if I call get line of code like this and I run the file node logging.js, it prints out the error, and you can see that this stack trace we can use to our advantage. The at, all these lines here show the stack trace at which, this error was defined. So it was defined on line 10 right here, but then we called this function from line 14. So let's go ahead and parse this string here to extract this part, specifically the end of logging.js. To do this, first we're going to create a variable called parent function. And that's going to be the error.stack.split like this. So let's print parent function now. And we're going to split it by, we're going to split it by the new line character. And then let's do if we split it by new line, it gives us an array where each element in the array is the line here. So we're going to go 0, 1, 2, right? Because this is where it got called from. So if I do 2, and then let's go ahead and print parent function out. So clear this. I'm on Windows, by the way, but this should work the same on Mac or Linux. I'll test this at the end of the video on those operating systems. So node logging.js. There you go. So we got the place where we called it. You see how it says line 15 and that's where we called it? Cool. Let's go ahead and keep parsing this further so we get it right. So we're going to do const file and line of code is equal to parent function dot split, and then split it on a character, which is going to be the slash. Because I'm on Windows, it's backslash, but if you're on Mac or Linux, then it's going to be a forward slash. Let me leave a comment here saying use a single forward slash if Mac or Linux. Cool. And then after we split it based on the backslash, let me go ahead and print that out actually real quick, just so you can see what I'm doing and my thinking here. So if I run it again, see how I get this as an array? Now we want this last element here because this has the file and line of code. So to get it easily, I'm just going to call .reverse on the array that's returned. So this makes this element that I've highlighted here the first element in the array. And to get that, just 0. So let's go ahead and run it again. You can see now that I have the, this last element reliably. And then after we do .reverse, let's split it so we get rid of that closing parentheses. So we'll split it like that. and then we'll get the first element. So let's go ahead and try it again. Boom, there you go. Now if I call get line of code multiple times, and then I'll call one down here, you'll see that it reliably gets the corresponding line name. We're gonna have three functions called warn, log, and error, or warn, info, and error. So function warn, and that'll print a warning log to the console. I guess up top I'll do function info, which is just like an informational message. And then over here, we're gonna define a function called, let's get this out of the way, function error, like so. Cool, and then they're all gonna use this to make things happen. So if I go ahead and do function, one more function, and all these three are gonna call this function up here, and this is gonna format our log, and I'll just call it print to console. Let's just keep it empty for now. And what I want to do is I want to console log the file and line of code in here reliably, just to make sure that it works correctly. So if I call this function, I should get the file and line of code back, which is corresponding to wherever I called info, warn, or error. And if that doesn't make sense, I'll show you in a minute what I mean by that. So we have info, warn, and error here, and all these are gonna make some magic happen, right? We're gonna call print to console with each. So let's just fill this out, print to console like so, boom, here, cool. Now what happens if I call info, warn, error like so? We're slowly building out our logic for logging, as you can see. Also remember to return this down here, so we'll just do return file and line of code. Okay, so if I clear this and try it again, you can see that I'm consistently getting back the same line and number, so there's a problem here. It's corresponding to where I originally called the file get line of code, and let me show you what we can do to fix that. So let's console log the error.stack one time. So console.log error.stack, like that. And I'm printing it out to show you how we need to change how we parse the stack. So here's the stack, right? We can see that get line of code was called by print to console, which was in turn called by info, and then info was called here on 37. So instead of getting the third element, right, 1, 2, 3, we want to get the fifth element, because this is where info is actually being called from. So the fifth element, because arrays are indexed at 0, just do a 4 here. All right. So now if I run it again, this should work reliably. Let me go ahead and uncomment these lines out. So node logging.js. Oh, 1 second. I forgot to get rid of this console log. So the output was a little messy. Let's try it again. There you go. Now this works reliably. Pretty cool, right? So let's mark this done. Cool, first one done. Now let's go ahead and attach the date to our log function. To do that, I'm going to use the UTC time, so just const date in UTC is new date dot to ISO string, like that. I'm noticing that I'm using semicolons here and there. They're not required in JavaScript, but let's just try to stay consistent. Why not, right? Cool, so we have get line of code. Now let's log the date in UTC, shall we? So date in UTC, like that. Do it again. Boom, pretty cool, right? So now we're slowly building out our logging library. We're getting line names and we're getting the date in UTC. So let's mark this done. Cool, next one done. All right, now it's time to get the log level out of the way. So to do that, I'm gonna create an enumerated type, which is really just a dictionary or a map. I'm gonna call it log level, like so. And it's gonna map to a string type, and that's what we're gonna print in the logging function. So I'll just map info to info in caps like this. And we're gonna do it 2 more times for warning and error. So So your log level should look something like this. And then down here in print to console, we can make use of the log level. So I'm going to pass it as a parameter. Log level, camel case, like so. And then inside of print to console, for each one, I'm going to do log level dot, info. Then I'm going to do log level dot, you guessed it, warning. And then finally, log level dot error. Cool. So now, before the line of code, I'm going to append the log level to our console log here. Like so. Cool. Let's try it again. How about that? We're slowly building it out. Log level is done. Let's mark it done. Now it's time to actually print messages. And we want our logging library to work like console log. Do you see how I'm passing in multiple values of console log and it works as such? So our console log needs to, or these functions need to take in a multitude of arguments and parse them correctly. So to do this, each function is going to take a parameter called message, but we're going to use JavaScript's built-in spread syntax, which means that you can send in as many messages as you want. And then we're going to go ahead and just forward this. You'll see what I mean by this. So in each of the 3 log functions we've created, you just want to forward the same ... message into print to console. And then up here, we're going to have ... message. An example usage of this is if we want to do info hello, comma 1, 2, true, 3. We should be able to call our logging library like this, where we can send in as many arguments as we want. Problem is though, is if we have the parameter like this, it won't work, but we can, like I said before, we can use the built-in spread syntax, and we're going to parse it in this function. So we're going to import one thing, and this is built into JavaScript's library, so I'm not breaking the 0 dependency rule. And we're going to import util. This is built into Node, so util equals require util, like so. And then down here, we're going to make use of a single function in util called format. So let's set a variable called const args equals util dot format message, like so. And then args is going to be this thing that we can pass to our console log statement, like so. So args, boom. So now let's try it again. So hello, 1, 2, 3, warn is empty, error is empty. Let's clear it. Our code should look like this. So now let's run it. Let's go. Nice. It seemed to have printed an array. So to fix that, just go up here and do ... message, like so, and then it should work. So try it again. There you go. See that? Dynamically printing whatever we send to our log function. Shout out JavaScript spread syntax. That's a tough one to say fast. With that difficult pronunciation out of the way, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to mark our print messages done. And before I incorporate colors, I want to test out this library to make sure that it works as intended in a different file. So down here, module.exports. I'm doing this to export each of the 3 functions so that we can use it in other files. So I'll just do info warn error. And by doing so, we can import it in another file. I'll just call this like main.js or something. Let's also get rid of these. Cool. And then in main.js, I'm just going to do const open close bracket equal require / logging. And then JavaScript in VS Code's nice, and it should auto-complete it for me. So info warn error. So let's try it in here. We'll say info starting up, and then a warn says warning, and then how about an error? Just say, oh no. Okay. Clear it. Node. Let's run main.js now. See how it correctly parsed the line and file name of main.js, and it's working correctly? we've done the thing. So if you don't care about colors, you absolutely can click away from this video. Congrats on making your zero dependency logging library. But if you do care about colors, let's go ahead and implement that real quick. So we'll do const another enumerated type. I'm going to call it terminal color, like so. And then in each of these, we're going to have 3 colors, 2 colors actually. Red for errors, which is going to be some string, and then yellow for warnings, which is going to be another some random string. Okay, so in both of these, we need to define what are called escape codes, and they're basically just string sequences that the terminal interprets as like doing something. So what I mean by that is we're going to create a string sequence that's going to tell the terminal to print red. So it's \x1b. I know this is crazy, but it works in both terminals. The beginning of each color is going to be x1b like that. And then this is where the differences change after 3. For red, it's going to be 3.1m. And then for yellow, it's going to be 3.3m. Cool. So now we just need to handle sending this in the print to console function. So how do we do that? If log level is equal to log level.error, we got to print red, right? Else if log level triple equals log level dot warning, right? Cool. Now let me define a variable up here which will have the escape code. So I'll do I'll call it maybe color because it might not be set if we're, for example, if we're doing info. So maybe color will just be terminal color dot red, right? If we're doing error, and if we're doing warning, then what happens? I didn't say anything because I know you thought of it yourself already. Cool. So now let's just append maybe color at the end, right? All right, let's do it. Cool. See how it worked? But now here's a problem. Now my terminal is red. Definitely an issue, and that's an unintended side effect of using colors the wrong way. That is, there's a way to fix this. So we're going to add a third enumerated type, which is called default. And this is an escape code that tells the terminal to reset to just the normal color that it was already doing. So x1b again, but it's 0m like this. And then at the end of our console log, we're just going to do terminal color dot default. So now let's run it again. And you can see it didn't reset, obviously, but after we did error, that's when things work as intended. So if I run it again, you can see now it's working as expected. One thing to clean this up a little more is I would pre-format the string before I console log it. So I would just do const formatted message. And we're going to format it by inserting all the variables into a string. So we're going to use these 2 ticks like this. And then in the front will be maybe color, then the date in UTC. Right, so that's 2 variables back to back inserted into the string. I'm going to do a space and do log level. And then colon the line of code, call the function. And then I'm going to pass in the args like so. And then finally, we'll do terminal color.default. So, and I know this is getting super long, but let's test this out. So now, there you go. Works as intended. I'm on a Mac, and I'm going to show you that this login code also works on a different OS that's not Windows. So if you go ahead and you change the split here from a backslash to just a /, go over here and let's test it in main.js. If you would rather have the logging functions be imported as an object, you can just do const logger equals require /logger. And then we can just do logger, oops, not log, remember, we're making a logging library. Logging, or logger.info. Hi there. 1, 2, or 1, 3, 900, whatever. And then we'll even print an object just to prove that our logger can take whatever we want. We'll do logger dot, oops, autocomplete's pretty annoying. Logger dot warning. And then down here we'll do logger dot error. Just say error moment. Okay, we'll say negative whatever. Okay, let's go ahead and test this out. Node main.js. And there you go. I'm on Mac, and this also works for Linux. Things are working as expected. Just make sure to change this split to a single / if you are on Mac or Linux. A logging library with no dependencies. You love to see it.